Man of Tomorrow is shaping up to be one of the most important comic book films of the decade. Not just because it's one of the next chapters in Gunn's DCU, but because he dares to ask a very unique question about Superman films. A question that a lot of Superman films, especially live action, has ever explored. And that is what happens when two of the greatest opposites in DC Comics, being Superman and Lex Luthor, are forced to stand together. That setup alone is enough to intrigue a lot of fans. But it also sparks a bigger question. What kind of villain could possibly demand such an impossible alliance? The answer, when you step back and really think about it, isn't just logical, it just makes sense, it's inevitable, and it's Brainiac. And if we need more fuel for the fire, Gunn himself practically teased it. When he posted a photo of the Man of Tomorrow script cover, a lot of fans noticed that this strange image on the front, the anatomy of a kind of human brain, that single clue sparked endless speculation. And if Gunn really is hinting at Brainiac, it might be the boldest and most necessary move he could make. But before we get to why Brainiac is the perfect villain for this movie, we have to acknowledge something about Superman, and it's something that a lot of people do not talk about, but I feel like it needs to be really explored. And it's one of Superman's biggest challenge on screen, is that he has a very big villain problem. Unlike Batman, who can stack a movie with heavy hitters like Joker, Bane, Riddler, Two-Face or Penguin, Superman's rogues gallery has always been a little bit inconsistent. Outside of Lex Luthor and Darkseid or maybe Doomsday, most of his enemies feel more like concepts than characters. Parasite, which drains energy, Metallo is a kryptonite cyborg, Bizarro is a distorted reflection of Superman, Toyman, Livewire, Silver Banshee, they all have style, but they rarely carry the narrative weight needed to anchor a blockbuster Superman film. But I can't really say that as a statement when I know that there are directors who are unique enough to take, very small concepts and turn into something fantastic, and Gunn is pretty good at that. But nonetheless, this is why so many Superman films fall into predictable traps. Villains either feel too small to justify Superman's godlike presence, or they swing too big, too fast, blurring out the story's potential. Zod worked in Man of Steel because he was a Kryptonian mirror, but you can't keep running evil Kryptonian into the ground. If Gunn wants Man of Tomorrow to truly matter, the villain can't just be another muscle-bound baddie. They have to challenge Superman's ideals, his humanity, and uniquely his ability to work with Lex Luthor. And this is why I feel that Brainiac works so well. He's not just another alien powerhouse or city-level threat. Brainiac represents something deeper: control, cold order, and the obsession with perfection. He bottles cities, freezes cultures, and hoards knowledge, treating life as a collectible. He isn't just a destroyer, he's a preserver of the lifeless, a curator of civilizations stripped of their growth and future. Against Superman, who embodies freedom and the promise of progress, Brainiac becomes the perfect philosophical opposite. But the genius of Brainiac in Man of Tomorrow isn't that he doesn't just test Superman, it's that he tests Lex just as much. Lex Luthor thrives on being the smartest man alive, the one who does a lot of crazy things with his intellect, but Brainiac makes Lex feel small. Brainiac is colder, smarter, and much more ruthless than Lex. And for once, Lex isn't the master manipulator, he's the reluctant ally. He joins Superman not just out of respect, but because he hates the thought of someone else conquering Earth more than his hatred for Superman. While Superman fights for hope, Lex fights for pride. That collision is a very good way for storytelling gold. And this is why other alternative villains just doesn't work. When you come to compare this with the other names fans often throw around when it comes to the Man of Tomorrow movie, like for example Parasite, who I feel is tragic but is too small scale. He feels more like a one-off episode villain than a cinematic heavyweight. And I'm not saying that a lot of directors cannot turn him into a very good villain for a movie, but he doesn't just carry that same scale as a villain that would challenge both Lex and Superman at the same time. Metallo ties neatly to Lex, but that's the problem. He feels like Lex's henchman, not a villain big enough to unite Superman and Lex against a common threat. Another would be Mongo, which is galactic and mythic, but forcing Superman into gladiator battles on Warworld, it's a little bit too early, and I don't see a reason why Lex will actually want to be involved in something like that. It feels more like a Justice League event than something that would really interest Lex. Darkseid is iconic. A lot of people actually want Darkseid so early in the DCU, which is strange, but he doesn't just fit this particular movie yet. He's more of Justice League territory. Making him a second movie villain just wastes him too much. So another option would be Ultraman, which a lot of people actually theorize he will be a villain because, the last time we saw him, he was sent into a black hole, and it's possible and it makes sense narratively of him coming back and wanting revenge on Lex and Superman, since he actually saw that Lex saw him more as a pawn than actually a real person. But on film, he risks looking lazy, too much like evil Superman retreat. So, you see, only Brainiac treats the nail. He's large-scale but personal, philosophical but cinematic. He ties into Krypton's legacy with candor. He could even breach into Supergirl, which, if the theories are right, she could also be in this movie. And stylistically, he's perfect for Gunn, who thrives on villains that are bizarre, colorful, and terrifying in equal measure. But here's what really makes Brainiac really special: what he does for Lex. In Gunn's first Superman film, Lex was arrogant, raw, unhinged, arguably the most hater energy version of Lex we've ever seen in live action. And yet he was humbled. He got stunned by literally crypto and then talk no jutsu by Superman and ultimately arrested. And here's the thing about Lex Luthor: he doesn't just stay arrested. He doesn't fade into the background like that. He always come back somehow, sometimes even in comic book becoming a president of the United States, which is weird, but it happens many times. And Man of Tomorrow gives Gunn the perfect way to do it. Lex's public image is in ruins right now after the first movie, but teaming up with Superman against Brainiac, even reluctantly, becomes his chance to claw his way back into relevance. Imagine the irony: Lex rebuilding his reputation by saving humanity alongside the man he hates most. It's brilliant and it's unsettling because, make no mistake, this version of Lex isn't softened. He's still raw, unfiltered hatred, the kind of man who would rather choke on his own pride than thank Superman for anything, a kind of man who actually openly admits that he actually hates Superman. So watching him and Superman stand shoulder to shoulder against Brainiac would be one of the strangest, most compelling alliances in superhero cinema, especially this particular version of Lex. We have seen Lex in nearly every Superman project. We have seen Zod, Doomsday, but Brainiac, nothing. The fact that Gunn could finally bring him to life gives Man of Tomorrow historic weight. It's not just another Superman movie, it's uncharted territory. At its heart, this film isn't just Superman vs. Brainiac, it's about Superman and Lex defining their roles in a world that is constantly testing them. Superman, who stands for freedom and messy progress, Lex, who stands for pride and human ego, Brainiac, who stands for stereo perfection and control. Three ideologies colliding, each demanding the future of Earth. That's the narrative spine. It's not just a fight, it's a meditation on what future we choose. One ruled by fear, one ruled by pride, and another guided by hope. So why is Brainiac the perfect villain for Man of Tomorrow? Because he solves Superman's villain problem first. He gives Superman a challenge that's not just physical but ideological. He brings down Lex Luthor in a way no one else can, while ironically giving him the path back to spotlight. He expands the DCU, connects to Krypton's legacy, and finally delivers a villain we have been waiting for decades to see in live action. He makes Lex and Superman teaming up a partnership as bizarre as it is necessary. Not just possible, but essential. So if Gunn really wants to cement Superman's place in this new superhero era, then Brainiac isn't just a great choice. He's the only choice to make Man of Tomorrow one of the best Superman movies or sequel ever. But opinions are opinions, so let me know about yours in the comments. Or do you think Brainiac's perfect enough? And while you're at it, if you enjoyed this video in any way, you could also drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads or just to help grow the channel. But until next time, I'm out.